There is something you have been carrying your entire life, and you have probably never been able to name it exactly. Not because you lack the words, but because the thing you are carrying was given to you before you were old enough to question whether you should be carrying it at all. It was given to you by the first person you ever loved, the first person whose face you looked for when you entered a room, the first person whose approval felt like oxygen, the first person whose disappointment felt like the ground disappearing beneath you. Your mother. And what I am about to tell you in this video is going to be uncomfortable. Not because it is harsh, but because it is going to name things that you have spent years quietly wondering about. Things you pushed away because naming them felt like a betrayal of someone you also genuinely love. You are allowed to hold both of those things at once. You are allowed to love her and still understand what she did. Stay until the very end, because the last thing in this video is the one thing that almost nobody says directly to adult children of narcissistic mothers. And it is the thing that changes not just how you understand her, but how you understand every single pattern in your own life that you could never fully explain. Let me start with something that happened in an ordinary kitchen. A child comes home from school. She got the highest score in the class on a test she had been working toward for weeks. She is excited. She wants to share it. She finds her mother and tells her. And something happens that she will spend the next 30 years trying to understand. Her mother does not light up. Her mother pauses, and then, in a tone that sounds almost like concern, says something like, "I hope you are not getting a big head about this. Other children work just as hard as you." Or, "That is good, but your handwriting still needs work." Or she simply changes the subject, back to herself, her day, her difficulties, her needs. And the child stands there holding something she came in excited about and leaves the kitchen feeling vaguely ashamed. Not sure why, not sure what she did wrong, just aware that the thing she came in carrying has been quietly taken from her. That moment, that kitchen, that specific experience of bringing your light into a room and watching it go out. That is where we are starting today. If you have ever searched the words narcissistic mother, you are probably trying to name a feeling that has followed you for years. Maybe your achievements got claimed, minimized, or turned into a story about her sacrifice. Maybe conversations with her somehow always turned into competitions. Maybe you left interactions feeling guilty, tense, or strangely unsure of your own memory. And maybe, for most of your life, you assumed the problem was you. It was not. But here is the thing about a narcissistic mother that makes her so difficult to understand and so impossible to simply walk away from. She is your mother. The bond is not chosen. It is not entered into as an adult with full information. It is woven into you before you have any capacity to evaluate it. Before you know that other kitchens exist. Before you know that other children come home to a face that lights up. You did not know another version was possible. So you adapted to the version you had. And those adaptations, those specific ways you learned to navigate her, to manage her reactions, to keep yourself safe in the presence of someone who was supposed to keep you safe. Those adaptations followed you out of the house. They are in your relationships right now. They are in how you respond to criticism, in how you seek approval, in how you collapse when someone important to you is disappointed, in how you make yourself smaller in rooms where someone else needs to be the center. They are in you, not as character flaws, as survival strategies that outlived the situation they were built for. Let me show you exactly what was happening. A narcissistic mother has little patience or empathy for the independent and demanding needs of her children. And children need a great deal. They need consistent emotional attunement, the experience of being seen, felt, and responded to. They need a face that reflects them back with warmth. They need a presence that says, "Your feelings are real. Your needs are legitimate. You are enough exactly as you are." The narcissistic mother needs attention and control even at home. And that need, that constant consuming requirement to be centered, admired, and obeyed, leaves no consistent space for the child's own emotional reality. What grows in that space instead is something very specific. A child who becomes extraordinarily skilled at reading another person's emotional state. A child who learns to monitor the atmosphere before expressing anything of their own. A child who discovers, through repeated experience, that their role in this relationship is not to be a child. It is to be a mirror, to reflect back what their mother needs to see, to manage her emotional world at the expense of their own. Children of narcissistic mothers often sublimate their needs to make their mothers happy, an attempt to win love and acceptance from someone unable to provide unconditional love. But here is the part that nobody prepares you for. You do not know that is what you are doing. You are not making a conscious decision to abandon your own emotional needs. You are a child. You are simply learning what love looks like in the house you live in. And what love looks like in that house is this. Love is conditional. Love arrives when you perform correctly. Love withdraws when you disappoint, when you have needs of your own, when you draw attention that was supposed to go to her, when you succeed in ways that highlight rather than serve her. And the child learns, without words, without awareness, at the level of the nervous system. Love is something you earn by being what someone else needs, not what you actually are. Now, I need to take you inside the specific patterns, because a narcissistic mother does not present in one obvious dramatic form. She presents in forms that are often invisible from the outside and confusing from the inside, because they are woven into the texture of ordinary daily life. The first pattern is the achievement theft. You accomplish something real, something that took effort and deserved to be celebrated. And somehow, in ways that are sometimes explicit and sometimes so subtle you cannot point to them, the achievement ends up being about her. Her sacrifice that made it possible. Her genes that produced your ability. Her teaching that created your skill. Or alternatively, her quiet concern that you are getting above yourself. Her gentle reminder of the ways you still fall short. Her pivot to a story about her own achievements that frames yours as smaller. Narcissistic mothers see a child's achievements as more important than their happiness. The expectations they put on children often lead to a disconnect between the performative self and the authentic self. And over time, you stop bringing your achievements home. Not consciously. You simply stop feeling excited about them in the way other people seem to feel excited. You downplay. You deflect. You find compliments uncomfortable. You feel a vague guilt when things go well that you cannot fully explain. That guilt is the training. The second pattern is the empathy withdrawal during conflict. One core pattern is intense sensitivity to criticism. Even mild feedback can feel like disrespect. A mother with strong narcissistic features may respond with anger, sarcasm, or cold silence. Imagine being a child,
and trying to tell your mother that something she did hurt you. In a healthy relationship, that conversation is possible. The parent feels the discomfort of knowing they caused harm, but they stay in it. They listen. They repair. In a narcissistic mother relationship, the moment you try to address something that hurt you, the conversation transforms. Suddenly, you are the one who is being cruel. You are the one who is ungrateful. You do not know how hard she has worked. You do not understand everything she has sacrificed. You are being too sensitive. You are making things up. You are trying to destroy her. And the child who came to the conversation wanting to be heard leaves the conversation apologizing for hurting the person who hurt them. That reversal, that specific experience of bringing a wound and leaving with a guilt, is one of the most lasting and damaging patterns of growing up with a narcissistic mother, because it teaches you something. It teaches you that your pain is a burden, that expressing hurt causes more damage than it repairs, that it is safer, always safer, to manage your own feelings privately rather than bring them to anyone else. And that lesson, that specific lesson, shows up in every relationship you will ever have. The third pattern is the conditional love operating system. Mothers with narcissistic traits often see situations as either all good or all bad. This is called splitting. They cannot accept people for both the good and the bad, which leads to loving only conditionally. You are either in or out. The golden child or the scapegoat. The good child today or the disappointing one tomorrow. And the switch can happen with very little warning. The same behavior that earned approval last week earns criticism this week. The same achievement that was celebrated in public is undermined in private. The version of you that was good enough yesterday is not good enough today. And the child living inside this system develops something that will follow them their entire life: an inability to trust positive feedback.
Because positive feedback was never stable. It came and went without logic. It was a variable that depended not on who you actually were, but on what she needed you to be in any given moment. So you learned to dismiss compliments, to be suspicious of approval, to wait for the withdrawal that you knew was coming. And in your adult life, when someone genuinely loves you, consistently and unconditionally, part of you is always waiting for the moment it becomes conditional again. Because in the only model of love you were given, all love eventually becomes conditional. Now here is the midpoint of this video, and this is where it gets most important. Because everything I have described so far, the achievement theft, the empathy reversal, the conditional love, those are the visible patterns. The ones that, once named, you can start to recognize. But here is what most people never fully understand. The most damaging thing a narcissistic mother does is not what she does to you. It is what she makes you do to yourself. A narcissistic mother instigates self-doubt in everything that you do. She makes you feel inadequate, even if you do something that deserves praise. And that self-doubt, that internal critic that sounds suspiciously like her voice, follows you into rooms she has never entered, into job interviews where you are more qualified than anyone else in the room but cannot feel it, into relationships where you are genuinely loved but cannot receive it, into moments of real achievement that you downplay before anyone else can, into therapy sessions where you spend the first several sessions wondering if your experience was really that bad, if you are being unfair to her, if you are exaggerating. You are not exaggerating. The fact that you are questioning whether you are exaggerating is itself evidence of the training. Let me show you what the training produced, specifically, in you. The first thing it produced is hypervigilance to other people's emotional states. You walk into a room and within seconds you know, without being told, exactly what the emotional atmosphere is. Who is upset? Who needs managing? Where the tension is sitting? What the safest way to position yourself is. This is not a gift. It is a survival skill that was developed in the presence of someone whose emotional state was unpredictable and whose dysregulation had direct consequences for you. You learned to read the weather because you had to. And now, in rooms where you are completely safe, with people who are not your mother, your nervous system is still doing it, still scanning, still monitoring, still preparing. The second thing it produced is difficulty identifying your own needs. When a child spends their formative years organized around another person's emotional requirements, when their role is consistently to manage rather than to need, they develop a profound disconnection from their own internal experience. You may find it genuinely difficult to answer the question, "What do you want?" Not because you have no preferences, but because the habit of subordinating your preferences to someone else's became so automatic, so deeply embedded, that accessing what you actually want requires effort that should not be necessary. You know very precisely what everyone around you needs. You are often not sure what you need. The third thing it produced is a relationship to your own emotions that is filtered through someone else's response to them. Before you feel something fully, before you let yourself be angry or sad or hurt or joyful, you run it through a prior question. Is this acceptable? Will this be received? Is this too much? And in that filtering, in that automatic prior censorship of your own emotional experience, enormous amounts of your actual life are lost. Not dramatically, quietly, daily. In the moments when you almost felt something fully and then managed it back into something smaller and more acceptable. The fourth thing it produced is a chronic sense of not being enough. Love from a narcissistic mother is unpredictable and punctuated by control and anger. Adult children must realize they are good enough. But realizing it requires first understanding where the feeling of not enough came from. It did not come from evidence. It was not produced by objective assessment of who you are. It was produced by consistent exposure to someone whose self-image required you to be smaller. Someone who could not celebrate your achievements without being threatened by them. Someone who could not attune to your emotional needs because her own emotional needs consumed the entire available space. The not enough is her voice, not the truth. But it sounds like the truth because you heard it before you had any other reference point. Now, what actually helps? Not what feels like it should help. What actually does. The first thing is understanding that the patterns you developed are not personality. They are responses. And responses can change. The hypervigilance. The difficulty identifying your own needs. The filtering of your emotions through someone else's response. The chronic not enough. None of these are who you are. They are what you learned. In the specific conditions of the specific house you grew up in. And what was learned in relationship can be unlearned in relationship. Not immediately, not linearly, but it can. The second thing is grief. real grief. For the mother you needed and did not have. For the childhood experiences that were supposed to be yours and were not. For the version of yourself that might have developed differently if the conditions had been different. Making sense of yourself after a childhood marked by emotional abandonment is really hard, painful, and lonely. And one of the reasons it is so hard is that the grief is complicated. Because she is not entirely absent. There were moments of warmth, moments of genuine connection, moments that make the story more complicated than simply bad. And those moments, those real moments, make it harder to grieve clearly. Because the grief is not for a person who was entirely absent. It is for a presence that was inconsistent, that arrived sometimes and not others, that gave enough to keep you hoping, but not enough to give you what you actually needed. That grief is real, and it deserves to be honored as real. The third thing is the hardest. Separating her voice from your voice. Because after decades of exposure, her assessments of you, her interpretations of your experience, her verdicts on your worth, they are not sitting outside you where you can examine them. They are inside, woven into how you think about yourself, woven into the inner critic that activates when you try something, when you fail, when you succeed, when you need something, when you express something. The work of separating her voice from your voice is slow. It is not done in a single revelation. It is done in small moments. The moment you notice yourself downplaying something and ask, whose habit is this? The moment you feel the guilt for having a need and ask, who taught me that needs are a burden? The moment you filter an emotion through someone else's acceptability and ask, who required me to do that? Each of those moments is a small act of reclamation, of taking back the parts of your own experience that were colonized before you were old enough to protect them. The fourth thing is professional support. Undealt with narcissistic mother wounds are what is causing you to live a life of struggle, constantly in survivor mode. The patterns built in childhood are deep. They are pre-verbal in some cases, built before you had language, which means they require more than cognitive understanding to shift. Trauma-informed therapy, attachment-focused work, somatic approaches that work at the level of the nervous system where the patterns live. Not because something is wrong with you, because what was done to you was done early. And early wounds require patient, skilled, sustained support to heal. You do not have to do this alone. You were never supposed to do this alone. And now, the thing I promised you. The thing nobody says directly to adult children of narcissistic mothers. Here it is. The version of you that existed before the training, the child who came home from school excited about the test score, who had not yet learned to dim the light before walking into the room, that version did not disappear. She went quiet. She learned that it was safer to stay small, but she is not gone. Every time you felt something fully before catching yourself, every moment of genuine joy before the guilt arrived, every instance of being completely yourself before the monitoring started, she was there. The work ahead of you is not building something new. It is excavating something real. Removing, layer by layer, the adaptations that protected you then, but are limiting you now. Until what is underneath is visible again. Not damaged, not broken, not too much. Just you. The version of you that was always there, waiting to be safe enough to come home. If this video gave you language for something you have been carrying your entire life, please share it with one person who is still carrying it quietly and does not know it has a name. Because somewhere right now, someone is standing in a kitchen with something they came in excited about, watching it go out, and believing the problem is them. They deserve to know it was never them. Subscribe, because this channel exists to give you the psychology that names the things that shaped you before you were old enough to choose differently. I will see you in the next one.